Hello, I'm Zidane, and this is Conversations I Wasn't Ready For. This is a space where we bridge generational and cultural gaps through conversations we didn't grow up having. Conversations about mental health, identity, relationships, family, and everything in between. Here, people share their stories, not because they have it all figured out, but because we're still learning, unlearning, and trying to understand ourselves and where we come from. Some conversations are heavy, some are healing, all of them are human. If you're looking for real feelings, real stories, and real connection, you're in the right place. Thank you. All right, hello.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hello, thank you.
First off, can you introduce yourself and what exactly is it that you do?
So, my name is Nico.
Mhm.
I am one of the volunteers for Nafcon, which stands for the National Alliance for Filipino Concerns. We are an alliance of individuals, influencers, churches, nonprofits, civic organizations, health organizations, so on, where we create action plans to really address the issues of Filipinos through cultural work, health and wellness, advocacy, and education. And so my particular contributions is that I recently came back from NAFCON's medical mission back in December.
Mhm.
So I really got a chance to integrate with communities that have been severely affected by flooding and the flood control projects in the Philippines, as well as provide like typhoon relief and aid, and really helping them set up and finding like long-term solutions. So that's where I currently am in a nutshell.
Let's go back to the time when you first started getting involved in this. What was going on in your life at the time and what got you into it?
So let's take it back to 2019. So I was just a junior in college, and my start was actually with that with the Philam org at my undergraduate college. So shout out to UCI.
Were you living in the city or?
I was living. It's more like a suburb.
Oh,
I
I
guess
see.
if you call Irvine, Irvine is like a suburban city. And so it's also a big like college town too. So I really got involved with their Filipino orgs, really trying to find my place and understanding of Filipino history, and also what can I contribute to um, the Philam spaces. So I really had aspirations to be an educator. I also had aspirations to get more involved with mental health. Um, and then, and also, but I think like a big part of um, where my organizing started, as what also helped with my organizing in college, was actually I was involved at a regional alliance called Southern California Filipinx American Student Alliance, or SEPASA for acronyms. Filipinos love the acronyms every time. But yeah, I got started there because I felt really impassioned to learn more about myself and learn about like Filipino history, because I never really got that chance to from elementary to high school. I lived in a very predominantly Latino white community, and so if you were to count all the Asians, including Filipinos, I'd be like 1 out of 10. So
I see.
yeah, we wanted to get involved to learn more.
Yeah, I was like, I had the same issue. It was kind of hard to get it into the community because there's not a lot of Filipinos,
Yeah.
at least in the city.
Yeah.
But there's more of them in Daly City, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I finally started getting involved when I took the internship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even like when I moved to Daly City, I did not know how many Filipinos it held until like I moved up here 2022.
I see.
So for a huge part of my life, I didn't have like, I would say I had a poor and if not one-sided view understanding of our community and our history. Like I only knew as much as my mom would tell me, and my mom didn't tell me much.
So it's kind of like you were like in a closed bubble kind of, and you didn't know what was really out there
Oh
and who to
yeah.
connect to.
Oh yeah. I only knew like my understanding from when I was in my upbringing is like I only knew Filipinos about through food, which is like typically the lumpia, the
Yep, me
pancit,
too.
the lechon, through church,
Hmm.
and then also through like chisme. But
Yeah.
and so I didn't know that we had such a rich history
Right.
from Lapu-Lapu
Yeah.
exactly to EDSA to Gabriela Silang. I didn't know we had a rich history really helping
Hmm.
immigrants, being part of the Third World Liberation Front and SF. And so when I moved to Daly City, or actually when I started in undergrad, um, I took every chance I could to get started, to learn more and like really grab anything I could digest about like Filipino America,
Hmm.
from like Carlos Bulosan to Anthony Ocampo to
Hmm.
EJR David. Also like try to attend like so many like
Yeah.
festivals that I could.
Yeah. It's kind of like you're catching up on all that culture that you missed out
Oh
on when you were
yeah.
younger.
Oh yeah. And
Yeah.
what was like a good highlight was that it kind of in a way encouraged and also grew my curiosity for more.
Mm.
And so with where I started in college, it gave me questions I can ask my family,
Hmm.
and then questions I can also ask other community leaders, other philams in the
Hmm.
mental health spaces, healthcare spaces, and it just became my curiosity kept guiding me to where I am today.
So how did you take that curiosity and turn it into what you do now? Like I remember you mentioning
Hmm.
you were helping people out in the Philippines that were affected by that typhoon. How did that happen?
So I think a lot of my curiosity really started with like, okay, how did Filipinos get here? How did my
Hmm.
parents get here? What was that journey like? And then, what are the problems that Filipinos are facing?
Hmm.
So going from like my parents understanding, my parents being in, like putting my parents like migration stories into like the historical context and framework of Filipino
Hmm.
history, like taking a look at like immigration laws, taking a look about how like the Philippines was colonized from Spanish to Japan to the US twice. Um, it made me very empathetic actually
Hmm.
to like how did everyone come over here? Because like when we think of the impact of our parents' immigration stories and their attitudes, and in my
Hmm.
personal upbringing, there was like a lot of pressure to like succeed well, go to
Yeah.
school well. There was also a lot of pressure to be a nurse.
Hmm.
There was a lot of pressure to not date during high school, and just like a lot of pressure to like succeed really well so you can live really well.
Yeah.
And when I went to the med mission, I got to see where those attitudes were coming from.
Mm.
And so, my personal objective when I went on the medical mission
Hmm.
with Nafcon in December was that I wanted to learn the stories of like how folks were struggling during the floods.
Hmm.
How are they helping each other out? How are they helping themselves? How are they helping their families? And is that a long term solution? And I think a new thing was that I was actually going to my family's home province. And so I also am coming with such a new understanding of like, okay,
Hmm.
I only see them for vacation, only see them like every 10 years.
Yeah.
This is my first time I'm seeing them in a way of like with their realities of like being flooded,
Hmm.
being stuck with inaccessible healthcare, being stuck with politicians stealing their money, and help them out like as I could with all the 20 big ass luggages, 20 luggages of like medical supplies, coloring supplies,
Wow.
school supplies, spam. I have so many pictures. And when it came to like my full curiosity of every time I learned a new story from my parents, I put it in context of like our Philippine history.
Mm-hmm.
And then every time I learn a new issue that's coming from the Philippines, it it enrages me. It motivates me to like, I want to understand like, why is that current problem happening, and then how does that connect to putting everything in the framework of history. How does it relate to like my family's immigration
Mm-hmm.
stories? And then again, going back to like, okay, where's my role in all of this? If I'm
Mm-hmm.
absorbing all of this stuff, like what will I do with this knowledge?
Yeah, speaking of your role in that, was being in this line of work, has that changed how you view your own identity? Being a Filipina, a member of the community, or even a
Mm-hmm.
leader at some points?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, I remember
Mm-hmm.
how much I felt embarrassed about being Filipina.
Mm.
Um, when I was growing up, people used to misidentify me thinking I was like Chinese or like make fun
Same.
of me. I was
Same.
just like, girl, I'm not even, I'm Filipino. And they're like, what's that? And I'm like, everyone in here is Filipino. What are you talking about? And so, like, but their nearest point of reference was
Mm-hmm.
like Panda Express,
Wow.
right? And so I always felt embarrassed, especially because
Mm-hmm.
with my parental upbringing, well, like with my own upbringing, it looked so different from my white peers, my Latino peers. There was always questioning, like, why is your mom so pushy about grades? I was just like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, bro. In the beginning, I felt really embarrassed, but
Mm-hmm.
then in college, I felt more open minded to like learn more
Mm-hmm.
about my identity, and I think like it changed from embarrassment to feeling very unsatisfied.
Mm.
But like unsatisfied in a good way. Like
Yeah. But you want to learn
I want to
more,
learn
want to
more.
do
I want
more.
to do more. There are times where I felt conceited about being a Filipino that have participated in like these pivotal moments in like US history and Philippine history, with like making big like changes to society,
Mm-hmm.
from Larry Itliong
Yeah.
and setting the 8-hour workday and the breaks and minimum
Mm-hmm.
wage, to like uh his history in like the Philippines with EDSA ousting Marcos.
Mm-hmm.
I think there I was just like arrogant in a way of like, if no one does not respect Philippine history, right, then like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna work with them, or type of deal.
Yeah.
Like I was very very strict about how my understanding of like being a Filipina
Yeah.
is, and like navigating the world as like someone gotta worship not just my feet but like the people before me.
Yeah.
And now this is like what I was like thinking back on this too. I was like, wow, it's my 6th year
Mm-hmm.
just doing all this volunteer work
Wow.
and grassroots
It's
organizing.
impressive.
I'm even surprised. um, all of this voluntary work. Um, I I learned that a Filipino is ready for change at any given moment. Um, they're always like, some of the Filipinos I felt inspired by,
Mm-hmm.
and that helped me be a better leader, commit more to community organizing, and even just
Mm-hmm.
deepen my understanding, were people that were very quick, very patient. They were very quick to see the problems that affects their neighbors, the kababayan, their family, and then they were also very smart and sharp, and like, actually what are the common patterns that everyone is experiencing, like how,
Mm-hmm.
in what ways are the problems that you face as an individual actually, I think those problems can actually are also experienced by other people.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were also very compassionate of like, you don't need to solve them by yourself, because
Mm-hmm.
it can feel very daunting, it can feel very hopeless, impossible. So how can we bring ourselves together, rally ourselves together to really solve our problems, even if like they seem bigger than us, right? Like a problem like when there comes rainy season from June to August in the Philippines, how can we make sure like everyone and their stuff is protected from the rain, protected from the floods? How can people who haven't been in church in a while, who are isolated, how can we bring them back out to the community and feel welcome and embraced? If you're struggling to put food on the table, like how can we make sure we bring groceries to you? How can we make sure that you're eating well, you're eating on time? How can we make sure like you're on your food stamps? And so a lot of my community organizing work that has involved like helping others, solving their problems, even looking at how the community problems and issues altogether really deepened that like my new understanding of my identity, that you know, to be a Filipino is to be really ready for change. We
Being
and
adaptable.
being adaptable, but also inspiring others to also make the change that you want to see. You know, I've seen Filipinos defeated by them when they feel it by themselves, but when they're all together, they're like, actually, I'm ready to take on the next step to like change my situation.
So it's kind of like we're kind of taking how we were the model minority into an inspiration for other people.
I don't even think it's like the model minority because even the beginning of our history, we weren't even like part of that.
Yeah, that like developed when we were starting to get like colonized.
Yeah. Or it's like when the the US couldn't tell any Asians apart.
Oh yeah.
We weren't even included as a part of model minority when we recognized that we were being exploited, when we were recognized that we were being colonized, had a lot of military occupation, that we were experiencing a lot of violence by our imperialists through all the world wars, the 1900s, 2000s. We were always at the forefront of like demanding better, demanding protections, and also demanding change. Our community has always been affected by poor wages, worsening exploitation, by even the violence from the Cold Wars, the wars that are on our home front, even human trafficking too. So, you know, when we talk about our really wide community issues and put it in connection to the model minority, we have been resisting against the model minority for a while because we noticed that like we don't benefit from that. Yeah. We actually benefit more when we dismantle that. So
Filipinos have been through so much. It's kind of where we got how we're so resilient to things, or just resilient in general. But I feel like most people say that, but they don't realize that we're also so much more than that.
Yeah. Like I remember growing up, like, or actually, I remember college was so funny to me. Like, anytime I mentioned I'm Filipino, the first thing they just mentioned is like, oh my God, you got really good food. I'm like,
I mean, thanks, but yeah, there's a lot more than that.
Yeah, I'm like, this is me. That's my dentist telling me. I'm like, girl, I could tell you, but I also need my teeth cleaned right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so much to us. I think that's something that I want more people to like take stock and like really sit with. It's like our history has been in our current like community has been more than the food that we make, has been more than the celebrities we admire.
It's just like surface level.
Surface level. They don't recognize that, or you know, it's not said enough that we are capable of like, you know, helping our communities when we're in distress. Like, I can speak of how I'm a part. One of the campaigns under Nafcon is the Migrante campaign, or the Defend Migrants campaign. We recently stopped a Filipina from being deported from Chicago
Wow.
and also from Seattle. And, these two Filipinos were, they already been doing their time in trying to be an upstanding citizen. They already been trying to do everything they can to not be detained. Um, Yet, under this current administration, they've been unjustly detained,
Yeah.
and through the neglect that they've been facing in the detention centers, they've been facing a lot of medical issues, to the point where they could develop blood clots if they go on a 14-hour flight if they're deported. So our community nationwide was able to stop those two deportation flights. And then even back then, like whenever there was a community issue faced by whenever there's a community issue, I always seen people like not take it, not feel defeated by it, but try to like do something about it.
Can you give an example?
Yeah. Right now we are working with some Filipino caregivers that are actually experiencing like exploitation at their workplace. It first started with these two caregivers, Kuya J and Atale. When we first met them, we learned that Kuya J was living in a garage. Atale was living underneath the stairs of their care home, and their care home owners and bosses were only giving them food once a month, and it was after moldy, it was frozen.
What?
And these caregivers, because they're lived in, it means that they work supposedly 24 hours. But they're only being paid 8, so they're not being paid overtime. They're often doing things outside of their job description, so they're not just taking care of their patients. They're taking care of the home. They're planting the garden. They're doing the repairs. They're being plumbers. Like, and they were experiencing a lot of workplace violations, a lot of exploitations, and when we first heard this issue, it actually rallied the Bay Area community together, one, to get them out of that situation, and then two, to help fight for justice. And so, it's been 6 months since the campaign, since I worked with them, and I have seen our community help boost their morale to like be able to write a demand letter to their bosses demanding for justice, filing a complaint with the help and support of the Filipino Community Center. Also, like inspiring other caregivers to also speak up about their situation. A lot of
Who would they speak out to?
first their bosses and making sure they stop, because if they don't, it not only brings harm to them and their coworkers, but also to the patient. Because the bosses just like are just only making profit off of like the long-term stay of these patients. And then to the Philippine consulate. So when it comes to anything regarding migrants in distress, migrants facing exploitation, or anything about immigrants underneath the sun, or even like because Filipinos just like trying to apply for green cards or whatever, like that type of maintenance. It's usually maintained by the Philippine consulate, and so they are the extension of the Philippine government to really look after our kababayan like in the diaspora overseas. And so, it's also like talking to them, like, can you do something about these employers who hired us, about these agencies that suggested us to them, or because many of these employers are also Filipino too as well. And so they also have like these Filipino employers also have ties to the Philippines back home, whether they have a home back there, they own land, they own a business, or even like they got their business signed off under like the appropriate agencies to let them have a business. So it's like if a business owner is exploiting a worker, what's the best way to make them stop is like have them stop their practice, hold them to justice, and then have them blacklisted so they don't do it to anybody else. So that's like a current example of like how does the community come together, how does community organizing really help our kababayans, and then also like what does that mean in relation to like the Filipino community identity. Um, it's just like, back to like earlier, it's like Filipinos
Mhm.
are always ready for change because they always been affected by the worsening conditions every
Yeah.
time.
What is one thing that people outside this space
Mhm.
often misunderstand about the work that you do?
I think they only see my work as so serious,
Mhm.
and it's always protests, marches, and rallies. Like it's always like taking the streets, or in my Lola's words, like, is it a riot? And I have to like clarify to folks that it's just like, while there is a place and purpose for marches and rallies, we consider those as the highest form of organization.
Mhm.
It's not easy to get everyone out on the
Yeah.
streets. It's not easy to get everyone to fully united and understand like, why are we going
Mhm.
to the streets, even if the problem there is like very clear about the
Mhm.
violence. Sometimes it's not so easy, especially how people have feel afraid about like going out and marching, and they always are asking like, is there something else, is there something else I can do, right?
Mhm.
And so when people miss or mistake that organizing or community organizing is always these marches and rallies, they often don't see that actually community organizing isn't only that. It's
Mhm.
actually the trust building. It's building relations so that way people feel comfortable and then confident to be
Mhm.
able to solve their issues with others. I think the hardest part when it comes to community organizing is feeling is trying to encourage someone to not feel alone about the problems that they're facing.
Mhm.
And so it takes a lot of
Empathy.
empathy, it takes a lot of listening,
Mhm.
it takes actually like a curiosity, an open-mindedness to like learn more of like,
Mhm.
how did this problem happen, how did we get here, also understanding like their views of like, well, what do you want to do about it. Some people think like bahala na, like
Yeah.
it's whatever, it is what it is. When to me as an organizer, another challenge is actually showing them that actually you can do something about it. Not like so condescendingly, like you can do something
Mhm.
about it. It's more like, you don't have to accept the situation that you're in.
Mm.
You don't have to feel alone about feeling this way or being in this experience. You don't have to feel so isolated. Actually, there's probably more people who are either in the same position,
Mhm.
empathize with you, and also want to care about you, to like want to see you out of that situation. And so it's a lot of trust building, like making sure
Mhm.
we encourage a lot of people to see that, encourage people that change is possible, it's a reality, it's materialistic, it's concrete, and that to make sure they're not feeling alone in their situations.
What's the first step that they should take if they want to change the situation in they're in?
Um, I would say the most important thing is to gather your homies, like organize your friends to help you out with your situation. I wouldn't have been here if and went on the medical mission. I wouldn't have been a volunteer of Nafcon. I wouldn't be here in my 6th year of community
Yeah.
organizing without being with people, about organizing with people. So I started out with GABRIELA, which is
Mhm.
a progressive grassroots Filipino organization from the Philippines. They have a couple of several chapters here in California. They started off in South Bay and Long Beach,
Mhm.
and then I did Nafcon, which is like a ecumenical like grassroots
Mhm.
organization in the Inland Empire. And then I did Anakbayan, which is like a progressive youth and student organization
Mhm.
that takes up youth and student issues usually at college campuses, but anywhere in the community.
Mhm.
And I also still work with Migrante, and they also help out with like OFWs and organize with OFWs. And I also work with the Filipino Community Center, which is also a nonprofit in the Excelsior that helps out with like Filipino workers and any any issue that they're facing, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's in their neighborhood. And so just like several organizations, because without these groups, I wouldn't be able to solve some of the personal issues I have, but also some of the issues I'm actually frustrated about in our community. Like when I first started with GABRIELA South Bay, one of the issues I was frustrated with was the anti-Asian hate, because it affected not only some of my members when I was in college and my friends who were Zoom bombed, but also I was frustrated by like the lack of response from the college protecting my friends and their Filipino organizations. And then also the lack of urgency and response from our governments that couldn't properly educate the people about COVID.
Yeah.
Then I joined and worked with the later half of these orgs because I was actually frustrated with the lack of support like Filipino workers were getting at their workplaces. These workers are fully 14 hours separated from their families, or they're working a third job, or they're the third breadwinner in their household. And yet our US government is saying like, oh no, the economy's fine. Like, you don't, everyone's working, everyone can afford a house. Like, I learned in the Philippines that it's like the way you can actually tell signs of poverty is actually food insecurity. So our government is not looking at the fact that there's a lot more people that's using second harvest, food banks. They're comparing prices at different grocery stores to see like which one's the most affordable, which meal could they afford to have on the table. And so I got frustrated about our government's lack of compassion. And so when it comes to starting with this, it's really just starting or joining an organization that resonates with your values, that also resonates with your attitude of wanting to take action. There's like so many organizations people can join, and I suggested some because those are the ones I started with.
Looking at where you are now, how do you hope these community efforts that you've done and all these medical missions and even these conversations, how do you hope that shapes the next future generations, especially here in the city?
I hope it inspires more youth and inspires the next generation to start making change. Like, they don't have to wait for a certain age. They don't have to wait for a certain criteria. If they know that they are experiencing issues, there's always going to be an organization that's willing and able to like help you figure out those things. There's always going to be someone out there that's ready to help you make those changes. If you feel an issue in your day-to-day life, you can always make change. You can always find someone willing and able to help you with that too. Especially, you know, putting it in like the more current context, right, is that we're going through a recession. The prices are only getting higher for everything. It's getting more easier to experience depression, anxiety, stressors, especially when you are feeling the anxiety of like, when can you have your next meal? How long can you stay in your apartment? How long can you stay to afford school? I hope the next generation realize like they don't have to wait for change. They can start making the change that they need to see. They can also, you know, inspire more people to make the change too.
Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Once again, you are?
My name is Nico. You can find my work at Nafcon USA. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. So it's very intergenerational.
I'll put it all in the description.
Oh, yeah. You can find me in the Bay. I'm always around to tell my medical mission stories, and I'm always around to like share more about like what I did.
We have a closing tradition of Anisang Bagsak. All right, follow my lead.
Yeah.
Sang Bagsak.